You know what? I was having my morning coffee yesterday, scrolling through the usual political chaos, when something made me nearly spit out my drink. Not because it was too hot, mind you, but because what I was reading was so absolutely bonkers that my brain temporarily short-circuited. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, was about to lose his job not through a vote, not through scandal, but through something I've never seen before in my 40 years of watching American politics. Mass resignations. His own people were literally walking out the door. But here's the part that's going to blow your mind, and I mean this literally. You're going to need to sit down for this one. The woman leading this exodus, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yes, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, the same person who once compared mask mandates to the Holocaust, is now the architect of what political insiders are calling the GOP apocalypse. And trust me, by the time I'm done telling you this story, you'll understand why even seasoned Washington veterans are using words like unprecedented and constitutional crisis. Picture Mike Johnson 3 weeks ago. He's got the gavel, he's got the power, he's got what every politician dreams of, the ability to set the agenda for the most powerful legislative body on earth. He wakes up every morning in his speaker's office, probably feeling pretty good about himself. Little did he know that his own team was plotting something that would make Brutus blush with embarrassment. See, what nobody talks about in politics is the math. And right now, the math is absolutely terrifying for Republicans. Johnson's majority was already hanging by a thread. We're talking about margins so thin you could floss with them. But when Marjorie Taylor Greene announced her resignation last Tuesday, she didn't just quit. She triggered what can only be described as a political avalanche. Here's where it gets really interesting. And this is the part that should make every American pay attention regardless of your party. Greene didn't leave alone. Within hours, Thomas Massie followed, then Chip Roy, then Matt Gaetz. 4 resignations in one day, 4 empty seats, 4 fewer votes for Johnson's already impossible agenda. But wait, there's more, and this is where the story takes a turn into absolute madness. These weren't just random resignations. This was coordinated. This was planned. Sources inside the Capitol, people who've worked these halls for decades, are telling me they've never seen anything like it. It's like watching a political suicide pact play out in real time. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Stephen, why should I care about some political inside baseball? Well, let me tell you exactly why this matters to your daily life. When the Speaker of the House loses his majority, when he literally cannot pass a single bill, everything stops. Everything. Veterans benefits, frozen, border security funding, dead in the water, infrastructure projects in your hometown, forget about it. The Republicans spent months promising they'd fix immigration, that they'd secure the border, that they'd cut your taxes. But guess what happens when your own team walks off the field? You can't play the game. Johnson is sitting in his office right now, probably staring at his gavel, wondering if it's just an expensive paperweight. And here's the kicker, the absolute cherry on top of this political sundae from hell. The person who's supposed to be leading this party, Donald Trump, is nowhere to be found. Radio silence. The man who tweets about everything from his breakfast to his golf score hasn't said a word about his party literally disintegrating. It's like watching the captain of the Titanic decide to take a nap while the ship is sinking. I've been in this business long enough to know when politicians are scared, and right now, everyone I talk to in Washington has that deer in headlights look. They're using phrases like unprecedented constitutional crisis and complete breakdown of governance. These are people who've seen everything, and they're genuinely freaked out. But here's what really gets me, what really makes my blood boil. While these politicians are playing their little power games, real people are suffering. There's a grandmother in Ohio who's waiting for her Social Security cost of living adjustment. There's a veteran in Texas who needs his disability claim processed. There are families across America who are counting on Congress to do something, anything, about the rising cost of everything from groceries to gasoline. And what are they getting instead? A circus, a complete and total meltdown of one of the most important institutions in our democracy. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a woman who once suggested Jewish space lasers were causing wildfires, is now single-handedly destroying the Republican majority. If you wrote this as a movie script, Hollywood would reject it for being too unbelievable. The panic behind the scenes is real, folks. I've got sources telling me that Republican leadership is in full crisis mode. They're making phone calls, they're calling in favors, they're probably sacrificing chickens at this point, anything to stop the bleeding. But here's the problem with avalanches. Once they start, they're almost impossible to stop. Johnson tried to hold a press conference yesterday, tried to project strength, tried to act like everything was under control, but you could see it in his eyes. This is a man who knows he's politically dead. He just hasn't stopped breathing yet. He kept saying, "We have a strong majority," while his majority was literally walking out the door behind him. And the timing is just perfect, isn't it? We're heading into the most important election of our lifetimes, and one of the two major political parties has just decided to commit suicide on live television. It's like watching someone set themselves on fire and then complaining about how hot it is. The really scary part is what comes next, because when you have a power vacuum this big, something always fills it. And right now, the only people with any organization, any coherent message, any ability to actually govern are the Democrats, which means Hakeem Jeffries might just become the de facto speaker without a single vote being cast. Now, let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything, because this story gets even more insane. Last Monday night, around 11:47 p.m., I'm told that Johnson got a call, not from Trump, not from party leadership, but from Marjorie Taylor Greene herself. And according to my sources who were in the room, this wasn't a negotiation. This wasn't a discussion. This was an ultimatum. "Mike," she reportedly said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but this is the gist, "you've got 24 hours to kill the Ukraine funding or we're out." 24 hours to kill funding that had already been negotiated, already been promised to our allies, already been through committee. She was essentially asking him to blow up months of diplomatic work because she decided she didn't like it. Johnson, to his credit, tried to explain reality to her. He tried to explain that you can't just unilaterally cancel international agreements. You can't just flip a switch and undo foreign policy commitments. But here's the thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this is where the story gets truly terrifying for anyone who believes in actual governance. She doesn't care about reality. She cares about performance. She cares about looking tough for the cameras, even if it means burning down the entire American government in the process. The next morning, Johnson woke up to discover that she wasn't bluffing. She filed her resignation letter at 9:15 a.m. By 10:30, Massey had followed. By noon, Roy was out. By 2 p.m., Gates had joined the exodus. 4 resignations in one day, each one citing Johnson's betrayal of conservative values and his surrender to the establishment. But here's the part that makes me physically sick to my stomach. These people, these elected officials who swore an oath to defend the Constitution, they're not resigning because of some great moral principle. They're not falling on their swords to protect democracy or defend the American people. They're quitting because they're throwing a tantrum. They're mad that governing is hard, mad that compromise is necessary, mad that you can't just wave a magic wand and get everything you want. Think about that for a second. The Republicans won control of the House fair and square. The voters gave them the majority, and they're about to hand it back through their own incompetence and infighting. It's like winning the lottery and then immediately setting the ticket on fire. And you know what the most maddening part is? The people who are going to pay the price for this political temper tantrum aren't Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz or any of these grandstanding politicians. They'll be fine. They've got book deals waiting. They've got podcast opportunities. They've got speaking fees that would make your head spin. No, the people who are going to suffer are the folks who believed in them, who voted for them, who trusted them to actually do the job they were elected to do. I keep thinking about a conversation I had with a truck driver from Michigan last month. This guy, salt of the earth, works 60 hours a week, hasn't taken a real vacation in 3 years. He voted Republican because he believed they would fix the border, because he believed they would cut his taxes, because he believed they would make government work for people like him. And now he's watching his party commit political suicide on live television while his problems just keep getting worse. That's what makes this whole thing so tragic. Behind all the political theater, behind all the resignations and press conferences and dramatic ultimatums, there are real people with real problems who need their government to function. And instead of solutions, they're getting soap opera. But here's what really keeps me up at night, and this should terrify every American who believes in democracy. When one of our two major political parties becomes this dysfunctional, this unable to govern, it doesn't just hurt Republicans, it hurts everyone. Democracy needs opposition, it needs debate, it needs two functioning parties pushing each other to be better. What we have now is one party that's actually trying to govern and another party that's eating itself alive on national television. It's not healthy for anyone, and it's certainly not what the founders had in mind when they designed the system. So there you have it. The GOP apocalypse is real. It's happening right now, and Mike Johnson is probably updating his resume as we speak. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a woman who most people considered a sideshow, has just taken down the Speaker of the House without firing a shot. And Donald Trump, the supposed leader of this party, is probably at Mar-a-Lago playing golf while his movement burns to the ground. If this were a TV show, I'd call it unrealistic. But this is real life. And sometimes real life is stranger than fiction. The question now is what happens next, because in politics, as in nature, something always fills a vacuum. And right now, that vacuum is the size of the Grand Canyon. Welcome to American politics in 2024, folks. Buckle up, because if this is how the year starts, I can't even imagine how it's going to end.